Hi there, and welcome to the ATS podcast with me, Will Brown, and John Soulsby, where we break down chunks of health and fitness information into bite-sized pieces, remove a bunch of the noise, and just leave what's relevant. Today we are on season 3, episode 13, blood flow restriction training, hype or effective tool?
Both,
Yeah, both.
because it is hype.
It is hype. It is very hype.
Um, I mean, apparently effective tool.
Yeah, I would consider it. I would consider it kind of both. Like the
Yeah,
I don't think it's overhyped. I don't think many people actually make too big a deal of it. I actually think it's quite a useful thing to have in your pocket.
I was going to say, yeah, it's maybe the opposite. Most people you speak to about it are like, nah, I
Yeah,
can't.
I feel like if this was big Gary V's like overrated, underrated, I feel like this would be underrated.
Yeah,
Um,
um,
yeah, I don't think a lot of people hype it up too much. I think a lot of people are worried about it because there's an obvious misapplicate, like you can obviously
yeah, yeah,
like misapply it and potentially create a health incident if you're really silly.
yeah. So I suppose, like, for people that have no idea, what would you define as blood flow restriction work?
Where you use a tourniquet or some other tight wrap around a major joint to decrease the blood flow out of the local area or restrict the
Yeah,
blood flow around the local area would be my summary.
yep, pretty bang on. Just before we go into like why, and yeah, that obviously has like theoretical negative side effects. Like if you do your tourniquet far too tight and your hands go white, not good.
Yeah, but there are
Um,
very obvious signs that your blood flow is
yeah,
like very impaired versus just slightly impaired.
totally. Um, so one like key advantage I quite like it for is
Hmm.
if you're like absolutely fucked from your main lifts, the weights you actually have to use to lift it to like do your accessory work are far less. You know, like curls is the classic example for blood flow restriction work because you like
Yeah.
it's easy to do for a start. Like as in like getting a tourniquet on your arm is a lot easier than on like your upper leg.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Um,
much so.
and people love doing pipes. Uh,
Yeah, also
so
true.
like if you can do your curls, if you're like burst from the end of your training and you can do your curls with 5 kilos instead of like 12s, it's just like
Hmm.
life's a bit easier, which
Uh,
is nice.
I quite like it for where for training around people that have injuries.
Yep.
Quite like it where if you have, for example, like essentially via the same modality of just lowering weight, but uh, if you've ever worked with people who get to like a moderate state of trained, they don't like lowering weight because they don't like getting weaker. Like they don't like seeing their
Yeah.
progress erode, and so you can kind of uh, break one trio into two and convince them it's two uh, with blood flow restriction. Whereas the intensity, like the it will feel difficult, but the relative load will be much less.
Yeah.
I'm glad I literally looked up the actual definition, and it's the training in which there is a partial vascular occlusion induced in the most proximal muscles by the help of a pneumatic tourniquet system. Good thing I didn't fucking try and spiel that off. Like,
Right.
we're meant to be making it simple sounding. That's literally why would I need a couple
Yep.
words when 10 will do? The other main benefit of it is the fact that you dramatically increase the maybe you don't increase the total amount of metabolic stress, but you certainly compound the effect or increase the rate of buildup.
Yeah.
Metabolic stress would be a super easy way to think about that. Is the like that kind of burn you feel from the acid byproduct in your muscles, like that horrible, like it feels like there's deep heat inside your arms or your legs or something, like that hot burny pain. Um, there's metabolic byproduct in that that gets removed by your system, like when we talk about um, cardio and lactic threshold and stuff, like your body gets better and better at cycling out all the bad byproduct stuff, but there's also some beneficial products that byproducts that are left in the muscle cells or in the muscle whilst that is present. and that usually also gets yoinked out. Like you chuck the bairn out with the
Yeah.
bathwater, essentially.
Yeah.
Blood flow restriction, again, I specified that it keeps it in because it kind of limits like the usually you're wanting it to limit the removal so that you kind of have this byproduct, all these byproducts kind of stuck in your muscles for a longer period of time than you normally would, because you also have the good stuff stuck in the muscle for a longer period of time, which can be good for a short-term hypertrophic response and is also very useful for if people are kind of injured and maybe can't use a load that they would need to use in order to get a stimulating workout. They can just use BFR and use much less of a load and not annoy the injury or train within their injured capacity as much as possible while still getting a difficult feeling workout, because all that byproduct is pain. And if
Yeah.
you're like, we're essentially not allowing the pain to get removed and keeping it there. So yeah, that's the long and short of it, is it feels gross.
Pretty much, yeah. And yeah, is safe and has a positive impact on your training, which is
Yeah.
great.
And like the blood flow stuff of it, the caveat comes with if you start feeling like horrendous numbness or your hands start going white or maybe even blue, like
Yeah.
like if it starts to look like
Stop.
you're getting a crush injury in the small amount of time you're gonna have a little fabric tourniquet on, then probably don't.
Yeah.
Like probably take it off and get some blood back in your hands, and then maybe tie it off again and do another set. Like ideally you would keep the ties on for the whole duration of multiple sets, because even then it's only a few minutes and they're not really tight enough. Like if anyone who's in a medical background will probably tell you how tight, especially in like a military medical background, will probably tell you how tight tourniquets technically need to be. Like I know the ones you get in first aid kits for like some of the ones you have for emergency first aid, either in the military or on like oil rigs and like big work sites and stuff like that, where on-site medical care isn't always apparent and the risk of severe injury is. They
Mhm.
are not comfortable, to say the least.
They are horrible.
Yeah, they're heinously tight. So yeah. Other cases for using it, I guess, are any other time where a relative decrease in a decrease in relative training load might be needed or required, but you don't really want to, or the athlete or client in question doesn't really like taking it easy. It's like a kind of halfway house tool where you
Yeah.
can give them a really kind of difficult, quote unquote, feeling workout without actually having to maybe with whilst being able to lower the relative load that they use. Great for deloads, pivots, however you structure it.
Yeah. Great for traveling as well, because
Oh
a lot
yeah.
of hotel gyms have very few weights in them.
Oh
But if you
fuck, that's
could
such a good call. Yeah. Really good call.
BFR it up with a couple like small tourniquets, off you go.
Oh yeah, because if you think you're like, oh fucking bro, I bench the 40s. This fucking normie hotel gym's only got 20s. You fucking chuck a
Yeah.
couple of blood BFR cuffs or something around your armpits and then hit the 20s. You're gonna get an insane pump.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a really good shout.
Also, good luck doing split squats with them. Have done them. Horrible.
BFR split squats, disgusting. It's the same as any other kind of intensity technique, really. Like long muscle
Yeah.
partials are another great
Yep.
one. They're awful. I've got a bunch of folk doing long muscle partial split squats, incline dumbbell bench, and RDLs right now in their like pivot slash deloads for stuff. Not getting very much
Fun.
positive chat
Yeah.
back about that.
Probably get some
Mostly,
horrible feedback.
yeah, mostly just gratuitous insults like threats to my life, yeah, stuff like that. But yeah, I don't think it's hyped. I think it's underhyped. I think it's an extremely effective tool. Would encourage people to try.